Here are 5 reasons why I'm glad my son's autistic. I know some people might think that me saying that is off color, but my son views being autistic as a core part of him and he's proud of it and I'm proud of him. 10.5 years ago, when my son was diagnosed as autistic, we received the diagnosis. We were handed a pamphlet from Autism Speaks and told to read it and, prepare us for what was ahead. And what it seemed like they were trying to prepare me for was a life sentence, basically, with no positivity, just caring for like a newborn. And before people are like, well, that is what my life is like, you just don't know what it's like. My son has high support needs. Back then, they didn't have a level system. However, he was diagnosed as moderate to severe. I am not interested in getting into arguments about whose child is more disabled. I think that's rather odd. However, I don't come on here and discuss my son's most vulnerable moments. So respectfully, you have no fucking idea what I go through. Let's continue. Number 1, my son says what he means and he means what he says. Do we have to give him some guidance sometimes so stuff doesn't come off too crass? Yes. But we don't have to spend time like dancing around like what the sentiment behind his statements could mean. Number 2, he showed me that everybody loves differently and that doesn't mean that any way is more or less significant than the other. Since my son couldn't speak until about 5 years old and even then it was very rare, I didn't even hear him say I love you until he was about 7 years old. However, in preschool, he had to do a project on me, and he knew like the smallest details, like my favorite color. Even though he was quiet, he didn't make eye contact, he was observing everything and taking everything in. To be honest, it meant more than an I love you. Number 3, I never have to worry about math when I'm cooking or doing taxes. That dude is like a human calculator. Number 4, we always joke that my son is on Roman time. His name is Roman. A lot of the times he's kind of off, distracted in his own little world, and so he has a hard time paying attention, and he just goes about things at his own pace. I remember one time I was going to one of his IEP meetings, and I was a nervous wreck. And as we were entering the building to go to the meeting, he was just kind of tagging along, looking at all the different insects, the flowers, bushes, and everything. And in that moment, I remember being so thankful that he could do that. By his age, I was already having panic attack after panic attack. But he can take everything in stride and just recognize like all the wonderful things around him. I love that. Number 5, my son will always have a support system. A lot of people ask, well, aren't you worried about when you and your husband are no longer there? Like, how will he fend for himself? What if he's not independent? But honestly, think about it. How many neurotypical people do you know that live by themselves? They're lonely, they're depressed, they struggle to make ends meet. Unfortunately, that's a very common experience, especially in America. Now, I don't know how independent my son is going to be in the future. But beyond making a plan to ensure that he's okay, if something happens to us, there's no need to worry about it. I talk about how I don't believe in ABA, but typically when you have an autistic kid, you do have access to more resources. My son having a solid support system, in my opinion, puts him a step ahead of a lot of other adults in the world, including myself when I turned into an adult. I used to always wonder, like, is he going to depend on us forever? Like, will he have his own place one day? Will he live on campus at school? But I don't think about those things anymore. Because there's no point. There's tons of neurotypical people that move back home, that need help with living skills for a variety of different reasons. If anything, having a solid support system as a base, I think gives him a head start.